Behind these doors is a chick wonderland. Nah, that's cheesy. Today we're going to be setting up for our meat chickens. In just about a week, we have 100 Cornish cross chicks arriving to our homestead. We are going to be raising 100 meat birds for our family to eat, and you're gonna come along for this journey over the next few weeks. So, in today's video, we're gonna help you get prepared for chicks. We're gonna tell you everything you need to know, everything you need to have ready before they arrive, and we're gonna help you avoid making the mistake that like 80% of the people make when it comes to chicks arrival. So, let's jump in. Hello everybody, welcome to Homesteady. Today on Homesteady, we are preparing you and ourselves for the arrival of chicks on the farm. And very specifically today, we're actually preparing for meat chicks. We've ordered 100 Cornish crosses. Every year we like to raise a big batch of meat birds, and we will start them out in the barn in our brooder room, which is what we're about to set up, and you're gonna see how to set up before the chicks arrive, everything you need, everything you wanna do. So if this is your first year getting egg layer chicks or meat chickens, the setup will apply to both. It'll work great for both, and hopefully we'll get you off and running. Don't forget to keep checking back in over the next few weeks because we're gonna be continuing this journey. You're gonna be following along with us as we raise chickens for meat right up until Butcher Day. So I hope you enjoy coming along in this process with us. The number one mistake that people make when it comes to their chicks, and if all you have to do to prove that this is a real thing, a real problem, is just type in the words in YouTube, "I wasn't ready for chicks," or maybe like meat chicks, so you don't get a different kind of video. Anyway, so many YouTube videos, myself included, are called "I wasn't ready for all these chicks." For some reason, when you order chickens from a hatchery, and if you're going to order chickens, make sure to watch that video. That helps you walk through the ordering process. They arrive via the post office, and they have a funny way of arriving early. You are told a date to expect your chick's arrival, and for some reason it never fails. They show up a day early, maybe a week early. You get a call from the post office. You're like, pop out of bed. Hello? Yeah, this is the post office. It's time to pick up your chicks. What? You're not ready. Don't make that mistake. Make sure to get ready at least a week in advance. So when your chicks arrive early, you'll be able to go pick them up. You'll have everything set up. Want to take a quick pause from this video to thank our sponsor. The sponsor of today's video is Butcherbox. All right, let's take a peek, dudes. What's inside? And it comes already butchered. You don't have to butcher it when you open the box. Oh man. Oh man, that's a lot of meat.
I don't.
Send it inside the box.
It makes.
Yeah. Woo! Bacon from Heritage Pork. Bacon's such a big deal in our house, even though we raise our own pigs and have bacon. Because you only get 15 pounds of bacon off of one pig, so we go months at a time without bacon, so thank you, Butcherbox. The real reason I agreed to do this ad, so I could have bacon again. I know some of you watching are going to raise meat chickens this year, but for a lot of you watching, you're just not able to do that. And that's where something like Butcherbox is an awesome solution for someone who wants to support farmers who raise a better quality meat. All of Butcherbox's beef is grass raised, grass finished. All their chicken is free range chicken. They do heritage pork. All their seafood is wild caught seafood. So if you love supporting the kind of agriculture that we do, raising animals the way they're supposed to be raised, and you want to eat that kind of product, but you don't have time to go find a bunch of farms locally to support, or maybe there are none local to you to support, you can support good farms by purchasing from Butcherbox. Look at the marbling in that bad boy. Yeah, Daddy wants that one for tonight. Look at that. If you want to have the quality of meat that we have here on our homestead shipped to your door, you can click the link below for Butcherbox. They're doing a special right now where you can get free beef in every box that you get for life. So free ground beef for life, grass-fed beef, awesome deal. Check out the link below. Now let's get back to setting up for our own meat chickens so that we can have our own meat chicken breasts pretty soon in the summertime.
What?
1 This is the room that we're going to be brooding our chicks in. So first and foremost, the first thing you need to make sure you have ready before the chicks arrive is a space selected to raise your chicks in. You can raise chicks indoors, at least for the first couple weeks of their life. You can raise chicks out in a barn, in a shed, in your garage. There's all kinds of options, and depending on the amount of chicks you have, that will depend on how much space and where you want to put them. We don't like raising chicks in the house if we can avoid it. Chicks have a tendency to get pretty smelly pretty quickly. And because we have a nice, warm, draft-free, secure barn stall, that's where we've decided this year we're gonna set up our chicks. And make sure that you have electricity nearby because your chicks will need some heat. And of course, you're gonna need to bring water to the chicks, so having a water source close by doesn't hurt either. We have this stall, it's nice and clean. We've already spread some shavings on the ground. That's another thing you're gonna wanna have already in place before your chicks arrive. The shavings absorb lots of the poop and pee that chicks are gonna leave. Make sure to keep your area smelling nicely, and you're gonna have to change out those shavings every couple of days. You'll notice we have a couple of chains hanging. You'll see why in a minute. We're gonna start hanging up some heat lamps. We're gonna be hanging up some waterers. We're gonna be putting some waterers down on the ground, also some dishes for some food. So let's get to work. Let's start prepping this for chicks' arrival. All right, the first most important step is complete, and that is hanging up our heat lamps. When your chicks arrive, they're gonna be tiny, little, fluffy chicks. That little chick fluff, it's not very insulating. It's not very insulative. The chicks need heat. When you think about when a chick hatches, it's a tiny little chick and it sits underneath mama hen, which is basically made of like a down pillow. Those chicks are very warm under their mother hen. They are not gonna be warm in your brooder setup without a mama hen, so you have to provide a mama hen for them. We like to use these heat lamps. These are Premier One heat lamps. This is not sponsored by them. These are just the best ones. These are my favorite ones to use, and there's a couple of reasons why. They have a heavy-duty plastic protective cover, so if this were to fall down, your heat bulb wouldn't be touching the bedding and start like a barn fire. So it's also got a loop built in to hang your light to something. And they have extremely long power cords. Those little heat lamps you get at Tractor Supply, those little cheap ones, they have very short wires and they will very easily fall, and they're not made of this heavy duty hardcore plastic. If a heat lamp were to fall in your barn, it can light your barn on fire and burn the thing to the ground. So I like to use these ones. They're very safe, very secure. And I always hang my heat lamps because as your chicks grow, you're going to need to raise the lamps up. I always hang them from a chain with a little clip. And that way, as your chicks grow, every day you come out here, if you notice they're getting too hot, you can just very easily unclip the light, raise it up a couple notches, reclip it, and then, hey, you know what? This looks like it's still too hot. You can raise it up a little more. Very simply, very quickly. I hang it from a chain and not a rope, again, because of the fire danger. You want to make sure that whatever's around that heat lamp is not going to wind up melting, burning, catching on fire. So don't hang your heat lamps from rope or straps. Hang them from a chain, secured to something very strong. Mine are secured right to the ceiling of this brooder room. We hang them all from a chain, and make sure to have enough heat lamps per chicken. Now, maybe you're saying, Ost, how many heat lamps per chicken is enough? What's the right number? And that's where this bad boy comes in. This is the Pastured Poultry Packet by Farm Marketing Solutions. It was created by my buddy John Siskovich from the farm. Pretty sure I just got chicken poop on it. Perfect, that's how you want a Pastured Poultry Packet. Covered in chicken poop, right? This packet has all the answers to all your questions, and it is every single year I bring this thing out. You can tell it's getting pretty dirty. This is my guide to raising pastured poultry. Every time we get our meat birds in, I pull my book off the shelf and I open it up, And it has within its beautiful pages, table of contents where it tells me all the things I need to know from ordering my chicks to butchering them. So I want to find my brooder setup. So I look in the table of contents, brooder calculations 1-11. So you're wondering how many heat lamps do you need for how many chickens? I have your answer. Boom, 60 chicks per 250 watt heat lamp. We are going to be getting 100 chicks this year, so I know I need at least 2 heat lamps. Always safe to have a little bit extra should something go wrong, so I'm gonna put 3 of them up, and that's another tip I learned from the Pastured Poultry packet. In addition to heat lamps, this tells me how much floor space I want per chick, how much feeder space I want per chick. All the questions you have are answered in this. I have a link right there. It'll take you to our website where you can purchase the Pastured Poultry packet. If you purchase this, we'll make a little bit of money from the sale, so you're helping to support our channel, and of course my buddy John Siskovich will make some money from the sale. You're helping to support his channel, which if you haven't already subscribed to, go ahead and click there. It'll take you over to Farm Marketing Solutions, where you will learn a ton about raising pastured poultry. Now here's a little pro tip for you when you're setting up your heat lamps. You want to make sure that each heat lamp that's hanging there has enough space around it where the chicks can get underneath the heat lamp and they can slowly wander away from the heat lamp and get into cooler areas. You don't want your entire brooder to be covered in heat lamp, because what is gonna happen is there will be a day where the chicks are getting more feathers and they're feeling warmer than they were the day before, and they're gonna wanna get away from that intense heat of the heat lamp and move a little bit further out to the cooler area of the brooder. And if your brooder is so small that they can't escape the heat, you may have some overheating issues with your chicks. So make sure there are warm areas of the brooder and cooler areas, but of course, make sure your brooder space isn't so big that a chick could wander off and get stuck in a cold corner and wind up dying. So you wanna make sure you have a nice balance of warmth, but not too hot. A little tricky, but again, the Pastured Poultry packet has a good diagram you can follow to help you set this up. Let's get to the next step of setting up our brooder space, which is feeders and waterers. Feeders. Nothing fancy here, just a typical bell style feeder. I like these kind of bell feeders. This particular model has removable feet. So what that allows us to do is when the chicks are small, we take the feet off and we put it down on the ground at their height. As soon as they get tall enough where we can pop these feet on, we do so, and that keeps the chicks from getting up in the feed and pooping in the feed. And I like the volume, the capacity of a bell feeder. I like being able to store more feed in the top of these. Those long ones, once they run out, they're out of feed. These ones keep self-filling. Now, as the chicks continue to grow, eventually they'll be so tall that these will actually be a little bit short for them. So we also, like our lights, will hang some bell feeders. Unlike the lights, which you wouldn't want to hang from a strap because it could eventually melt it, burn it, cause a fire, I'll use some of these pull straps, and I can hang feeders and waterers from these pull straps. That way, as the chicks grow, I can raise or lower the waterers and the feeders as they need them. Water time. Water is very, very important for your chicks. You actually want to have room temperature water, maybe even with a little bit of sugar in it, there ready for the chicks when they arrive. Although they won't need to eat the second they arrive, they definitely will want to have a nice drink. And although I'm a big fan of using nipple waterers, especially indoors where you're brooding, day one, you do want to make sure that you have a bell waterer. Here I have a couple different size bell waterers, small, little tiny one, a bigger one. Bell waterers are super messy. The chicks can poop in them and make the water completely dirty and disgusting. I hate bell waterers. But they are very important to have right away because the chicks don't need to know how to use a bell waterer. They just walk over and they take a drink. So I find on day one, having a bell waterer right there on the ground with lukewarm water is the best way to make sure your chicks get a drink. Over time, I will train my chickens to a nipple waterer, but you gotta give them a bell first thing. Just like my lights, I like to hang the waterers up. As the chickens grow, it's just so much easier to be able to raise the water with them so that the water stays clean. And again, I like to use these cinch pull straps. I've used in the past ratchet straps. You can use a chain. I find when it comes to the waterers and the feeders, the cinch pull straps are the nicest because you can just ever so slightly keep raising them up as the chicks grow, and they're always the perfect height. Your feeders, your waters, always the perfect height for your chicks as they get taller and taller. Now here is a little tip for you when you're hanging up your feeders and your waterers. Again, I like to use these cinch straps. Super easy to adjust. I'll have links below. You can order them through Amazon. I always order at the beginning of the year like a 30 pack of these things. I use them in the chicken tractors, I use them in the brooder, I use them all over the place. Make sure when you hang them, water's pretty heavy. So make sure if you're hanging them from the ceiling, the screws go into an actual like floor joist up above or a ceiling rafter up above you. Make sure it's nice and strong because you don't want the water to break loose and crush all your chicks. And of course, the biggest tip to remember, when you're hanging your waters and your feeders, I like to have the heat lamps to the back of the brooder setup and the feeders and the waterers to the front, because you're gonna have to refill the waterers and the feeders often. If the feeders and the waterers, if the feed and the water is in the back, you gotta step into the brooder, work around all these little chicks running around, move across the heat lamps. Honestly, it's happened before. You're likely to step on a chick and kill it. It's much better if you can walk up to the brooder without stepping into it, grab the feed, grab the water, refill it from the outside of the brooder without having to worry about going inside and stepping and possibly killing or maiming a chick. That's the worst, and I can tell you it's happened, so don't make that mistake. Hang your feeder and waterers to the edge where you can access them easily, and heat lamps to the back. Here's one more pro tip for you when you are hanging something on a chain or a cinch strap. Make sure when you hang it, you don't actually loop the strap through this, but instead you use a clip to clip this to the loop in your strap. That way when it's time to fill your waterer, you don't have to undo your whole strap. Instead, you can just pop the clip off. This is the correct way. Clip to your strap and clip to your bucket. And that way when you have to refill the bucket, you just unclip it, go and refill it. And you're back, just like that. There we go. And then the nice part about the cinch strap is as your chicks grow, just a little tug, that's all it takes, and the water raises up with them. Now, of course, you're wondering, how many waters, how many feeders per chick? If only there were a place I could find that answer. Oh, wait, Pastured poultry packet. Let's take a peek. 2-inch feeder space per chick. And of course, same rule applies to waters. You can find the entire layout that I use for my chicks, my brooder setup in the Pastured poultry packet. John has it all labeled, numbered, and explained below. And of course, if you want to get all the details, you got to get the Pastured poultry packet. I gave you a couple sneak peeks there, but I don't want to give away all John's good stuff. He's got a whole page on farm knots. He's got, I mean, this thing is just chock full of everything you're going to need to know. Picking the breeds, picking the chicken, which chickens, if you should have all males or females, broiler rotation planning, brooder calculations, infrastructure budget summary. I mean, look at this. And it's a workbook. So the cool thing about this, it's a workbook. There's spots where you actually write in your answers to these questions, and he helps you calculate how much money these chicks are costing you and how much money you're gonna have to charge per chicken. I cannot say enough good things about this Pastured poultry packet. Again, link below. Now, we gotta do one more thing. You actually saw it in the picture there. One more thing to make sure our brooder is ready for chicks, perfect, and we're not gonna wind up killing them or they're not gonna be dead the first week they're here. Let me show you what that is. All right, that little barrier there is kind of important. When the chicks are small, you want to make sure they stay close to the heat lamps. They don't get lost. This is a very big room. Chicks could wander off into a far corner and wind up dying of cold just because they couldn't find their way back to the heat lamp. What a tragic death. So we put this divider in when they're small to make sure they stay close to the heat lamps, the food, the water, they don't get lost. And it allows us to access the brooder on this side, fill the feeders and the waterers without chicks getting underneath our feet and we wind up stepping on them. Another tragic death. There is our entire chick brooding setup. I hope that you learned a few things. As you see, we have all the feeders, all the waterers, the divider, the heating lamps, everything is ready to go a week ahead of time. So if I get that phone call when I least expect it, hey, your chicks are here, we're ready to go. Before you're done, make sure to plug the heat lamps in, check all your bulbs, buy some spare heat bulbs. That way when those ones go out, you don't find yourself on a cold day with no heat for your chicks. You're gonna need spare shavings because the chicks are gonna dirty these shavings. You're gonna have to clean this out and get new shavings in there. Of course, plenty of starter chick feed and grower chick feed to raise them. Our chicks will be here in a couple of days and you'll be able to follow along as we continue to raise these meat chickens and kind of raise them along with us. Don't forget, check out the Pastured Poultry packet link below. Also, I really suggest if you're gonna raise meat chickens, building yourself some John Siskovich chicken tractors, you can get his chicken tractor plans. Also a link below, or you can click there to follow my links to John's stuff. We raise them in the Siskovich style chicken tractors once they go out on pasture. They work fantastic. I really love them. Don't forget this tip. This is a big one that, for us has been huge. That is a Wyze camera, W-Y-Z-E. It is $25 if you have Wi-Fi near your barn. If you don't, I have a video that teaches you how. Click there to watch that video. That shows you how to get Wi-Fi to any building on your property. Get Wi-Fi to your barn, plug in a little Wyze camera. That camera, 25 bucks, watches the chicks. I can then, on my phone, any time of the day, pull up that camera's feed and check on my chicks. This is so nice. When chicks are young, they're very fragile. If something goes wrong, you can have a huge die-off happen very quickly. So at nighttime, when the temperature dips way down and you're worried, are all three of my heat lamps still working? You don't have to get out of bed to check. Pull out your phone, check your Wyze Cam app, and boom, there you can see 1, 2, 3 heat lamps. You can even look at the chicks on the video and see, wow, they look cold, or no, they look warm, or oh, they look too hot, or the water is empty. You can check on your chicks 24/7, $25 camera. It will save you money in lives saved, I guarantee it. So link below for the Wyze Cam. Anytime I need to, I can pull out my phone, I can check on the brooder, and as you can see, you can tell, are my heat lamps on? Are my feeders full? Really, really nice to have, really good backup. I have one installed in every barn stall. That way when there's a calving, when there's chicks, or when there's any fragile new animal that I gotta keep my eyes on more than usual, I can pull up my Wyze Cam, check on them without even getting out of my pajamas. I am gonna try something a little bit new in this video. Make sure you follow us over on Instagram. Instagram, we are at Homesteady Show. Make sure to follow us there because I'm gonna try doing this in the future. I asked you over on Instagram, what questions do you have about raising chicks? I'm gonna take a quick minute out of this video to answer the questions that you left if you follow us over on Instagram. Let's see what questions we have. How much space do you need for your chickens from start to finish if you want to use the chicken tractor way? That was asked by Rocket Pam. Great question, Rocket Pam. We'll talk about space in the future. As far as brooder space goes, you want about 0.5 square feet per chick. Does that make sense? Kaylin Axelson asked, how long do you need to keep meat chickens in a brooder compared to egg-laying chickens? And this is one of those questions that is kind of like it depends on the time of year. We're getting our chicks very early in the season. So we have to make sure to keep them in the brooder long enough for the cold weather to pass. So we're actually gonna have them indoors for probably 5 or 6 weeks because we're getting them early in the season. However, you definitely don't need to leave them in the brooder that long. If the weather is right for it, you can actually usually put your meat chickens out about week 4 out of the brooder and into their chicken tractors. So by week 3 inside your brooder, you're starting to mimic the temperature of the outside world. you're bringing your heat lamps, probably turning your heat lamps off completely, letting the chicks get fully feathered. By week 4 to week 5, you can start to put them outside and actually put them out in the chicken tractor and move them around. Now, of course, if you're getting them early in the season like we are, you might want to wait a little bit longer like we intend to. But I really don't suggest getting your chicks this early in the year. We're doing it because we have calving later in the season and we didn't want to be doing chickens while also dealing with calving. So great question, and thanks for asking that question, Kaylin. Let's see, we got another one. Central Peck asked, can you talk about brooder heat options and then temperatures? I show in this video heat lamps. We like to use heat lamps. But there are other options for heat in your brooder. You can use heat mats. I believe Premier One makes a little heater unit that is on stilts, and it's supposed to be safer than a heat lamp, and the chicks can go under it like they do a mother hen. We've not used those because we have so many chicks. You would need to get a really big one of those things, and it would just be cost prohibitive. You can get brooder, all-in-one brooder boxes. We have one that we've used in the past, all-in-one brooder unit. But those are also a little tricky to get right. I like using heat lamps as long as you do it safely, which we show how to do in our video. Finally, Mrs. L. Britt asks, do you start out feeding your chicks starter feed or immediately on broiler feed? We get a broiler starter feed, which is a high protein level feed. It gets the broiler chickens a very high protein level. Kind of get packs a punch as they're young and they're starting to grow. And then we transfer over to a grower feed as they get a little bit older. Thanks for asking those questions over on Instagram. If you don't follow us on Instagram, click the link there. And next time we're making a video like this, if I ask for questions, maybe you'll get a question answered. Don't forget, you can find links below for everything that we shared in this video. And of course, Pastured Poultry Packet, all of John Siskovich's books. I can't recommend them enough. They're fantastic resources. I literally pull mine out every year. And you know this because if you've been watching me do this every year, every video, every year, I pull that Pastured Poultry Packet out and I share a couple of sneak peeks with you. But if you want to get all the good stuff, start to finish, it's all in that packet. Click right there to get John's stuff.